It's like this is a human story happening in an extraordinary place.
Yeah. They stop being baddies and villains and they become like people that you can relate to. And if you can relate to them, then you can empathize.
Spies. Saboteurs. Assassins. We've all done terrible things on behalf of the rebellion.
In Star Wars up to this point in live action, we've either seen the rebels, the Jedi, you've seen kind of all the heroes, and then the villains have been three-dimensional for the most part, but you kind of just see one level of them. And here, both of you get to play characters that we're really diving into a lot more than we've typically seen. And over the first 4 episodes, Kyle, we've seen a lot more of your character. Did you approach playing this character as a villain, or how did you get into playing Syril?
I got into playing Syril as a human being in extraordinary circumstances, you know, trying to find his way to belong, dealing with his own internal traumas and desires, and getting him into fucked up situations, basically. And I think the thing for both of us, but you can speak on this as well, Denise, that, you know, playing these villains usually can be quite a two-dimensional experience, but what Tony has written is so human for both of us.
Yeah.
You really get to understand why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And you get to feel for them, I think, not only just as performers, but potentially for the audience as well.
Cassian Andor. Don't matter what you tell me or tell yourself. You'll ultimately die fighting these bastards. Wouldn't you rather give it all at once to something real?
And it's so interesting. Like for me, I was not very connected to the Star Wars world, but I was aware that I would be one of the first women to be playing this kind of level of Imperial. And so that in itself, like I remember one of my first days sitting in that big room, and it's just all these men around the table and her. And I think there was one other woman. And I thought, okay, well, that's a good place to start, isn't it? She's gotten here. How did she get here in this room? She must be super ambitious. And also, why is she super ambitious? What is she looking for? And you realize when I did some backstory with Tony, like you realize what she came from, how important it is for her to be in control, to be seen as somebody who is excellent. It's like, you know, I know somebody who had a traumatic childhood and then became a heart surgeon. And it's like, well, how do you ensure that you're needed, seen, respected, all of those things? You become a person who literally holds people's hearts in their hands. Like there is a reason when we just, like I'm an actress, I'm one of 11 children. So it's no surprise that my job is to stand on stages and everybody has to shut up until I finish speaking and then clap for me. Like we're all making these kind of subtle decisions. And so for me to just play Dedra as like a baddie didn't make any sense. And people do things for reasons, you know. And I had one scene I remember where I'm humiliated in a work meeting, and you see her go and take a second. She just has to, her resolve is gonna go. She's gonna maybe cry. And there's no way she can do that in this place. And so you have to allow the audience to see the battle that she has with herself, to hold it together. And people can, and especially women, will be able to relate to that entirely. And so they stop being, like Carl was saying, like they stop being baddies and villains and they become like people that you can relate to. And if you can relate to them, then you can empathize. You don't have to think that they're all good because they had a hard childhood. But I mean, if we're showing characters that show us ourselves a little bit, then that opens the lines for empathy in a really beautiful way, I think.
And we know where this story goes with Cassian, because obviously Rogue One, we know where this story ends, and you're not a character in that story. Did Tony kind of give you the path that your character is going to take through not only this season, but in the second season as well? Is that something you know where it's going to go?
I know.
And is it exciting? Like, obviously you can't say anything, but
I can't say anything. But I know, and I think that is probably one of the coolest things about working with Tony is the he really allows his actors to hold information and hold power. He understands that information is power, and that information means that we get to start shifting our brains and getting ready for a journey and gearing up for it and working on our characters and doing our homework even before the scripts are getting ready. And I think there's a level of trust that Tony has with our group, that he's like, I understand that you guys are so excited to be a part of this. You love this and you will protect it forever. And you will protect the most important thing, which is the fan experience. We all want the fans to have the best experience, to have to be raw and blind, just watching it with completely fresh new eyes. And that is something that Tony trusts us with. And I think that's really, really cool. I knew what was going to happen with my character before I read any episode.
The Empire is always viewed as this big evil place, but there's so many millions and millions of people that are working there, and it's a career, it's the military.
Totally.
And for both of your characters, you're in this structure where you're trying to get ahead in your careers, and you're faced with this adversity. So there's that human element to it. For both of you, was there any part of that you were thinking like, well, this is Star Wars and I'm in space and this is a galaxy far, far away? Or were you really playing it as this could be just somebody living a life here on Earth and experiencing the same thing?
That's, totally that. Yeah.
Like,
and
the fact that it's Star Wars came after.
Yeah, and I think that was Tony's point all along.
Yeah.
And that was clear in the scripts from the very beginning. It was like, this is a human story happening in an extraordinary place.
Yeah. Like, when I read the first scripts, I was like, it was only when I got onto the set that I was like, am I on oh my God, this is all happening on a fucking spaceship. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. I hadn't, in my mind, in my kitchen, when I'm learning my lines, I'm not thinking, and then she goes over, like, I was like, oh, I've got this space pad that I'm tapping, and then we're looking at like a hologram. All of that only came when I got to the set and remembered,
oh yeah,
I'm in Star Wars. Okay. And now we've been saying all day, now it's really obvious that we're in Star Wars because it's about to come out. And suddenly I'm quite overwhelmed that I've joined this huge, beautiful, like, community,
family,
right? It feels like we're being brought into this thing, and that's such a privilege.
We've chosen a side. We're fighting against the dark.
There is an organized rebel effort. Drill down and get a hunt started.
You realize what you set in motion? People will suffer.
So you've been in a lot of different projects that are crossing genres. You've done Marvel, you've done Neil Gaiman, you've done the fantasy, the horror, the sci-fi. Did it feel like a genre project to you when you started shooting it?
No, I didn't. I definitely felt the first day that I got to set, it felt like I was a part of something bigger, and I sort of geeked out, and I was like, what? They built this insane set for us that it was an actual city, and that was really overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I'm in Star Wars. And there's no way that you can get out of the fact that you're in Star Wars. You sort of have to embrace it at a certain point. But really, Tony did such a remarkable job with the story itself that it feels like an honest piece that he wrote, and it just happens to happen in a galaxy far, far away. And he almost did this story of people like us, like me and you, and ordinary people just that have nothing in common, yet they're at a cusp of a revolution. And what does that mean? And so that was really daunting, I think, for all of us. But of course, in between takes, everyone was geeking out, and everyone's inner child was off the charts.
Did it feel different than you were expecting from the page to the screen?
No, I think it did, in the sense of like the you read something and you can imagine something in my imagination, right? But my imagination can never match Tony Gilroy's or our production designer's imagination. They're on another level. So obviously going to set and realizing where you're filming these scenes and the practicality of it all and sort of space, it completely changes the scene. But I feel like what you're asking me specifically, no, I think it didn't change as much from the page to what we shot. It was interesting and it was super fun. And I'm a big fan of Star Wars, and personally I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm into this. I'm into sort of this reality that happens within the world, and it's almost like peeking behind the curtain of what really happens in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to everybody checking it out. Since I've only seen the first 4 episodes, I am expecting that I'm going to probably have a different feeling about both of your characters by the end. I'm hoping that I hope I continue to love you. I love what you've done so far. I'm really excited for everybody to check it out. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Time has come to force her hand.
At what cost?
Everything! Every day we wait, they get stronger.
Let's take them by surprise.
For the greater good.
Call it what you will.
Let's call it war.
People are standing up. They're afraid. Right now, they're afraid.
Star Wars Andor, 3-episode premiere, streaming September 21st.